for this kind of message to get out, because they know that too many people are prepared for what's getting ready to come, and they're worried about that. So we got to get this information out to each other. And I was talking to a brother who is trying to raise some, if I may, Brother Rich.
Mhm.
There is going to be a, a viewing for raising funds at the so-called REFAL headquarters at 269 South Ninth Street, Newark, New Jersey. There is a donation, and I can't say what that is, but I am, anybody who's out there listening to it, I don't have any telephone number. He didn't leave a telephone. Oh, yes, he did. 862-368-1819. Again, 862-368-1819. It's a fundraiser to maintain and keep the center open. The brother wants to maintain a conscious center. So I would ask that you at least assist and to support what the brother is doing with a viewing of my program. Give him permission to view my program and to raise the funds on that as well. All right. So that said, I'm open to anything that you're ready to deal with, beloved brother. Whenever you're ready.
Indeed, we're gonna be on here for about an hour. I might take a couple of calls from the people in the chat as
Mhm.
everybody gets ready for this dynamic presentation Phil is going to offer to us next Sunday. But just going to chop it up with Phil for a little while before then. Somebody in the chat was asking about the link. It's pinned at the top of the chat. So if you need the link to get tickets for next Sunday's webinar, it's pinned at the top of the chat. Phil, that website you was working on, what's the how's that coming along with all your
Oh, right. The what's her name? My wife's sister is powerful. She made up. Well, you see all the sites we have. That's her.
okay.
So what happened is she fell ill. She had gotten the flu, so that delayed it, and
Uh,
she had to go to the hospital, and so we had to chill for that for a little while. But we're going to see sometime by spring. We're going to get that up,
uh,
and it's going to be called Webin Archive. And Webin Archive will have all of my webinars going back years, so that people can stream it for a nominal price, so we can maintain, food and so forth. Thank you, Cheryl.
indeed. Yeah, Cheryl got her ticket. Cheryl is not playing. Somebody want to know what needs to be done to get ready? Just pen and pad, right?
What you need to do as far as to get ready to be done, uh, what you have to have is, first of all, stamina, and you're going to have a concentration, a type of an acumen for concentration and for taking notes. Okay. Now, I don't mind people taking private notes, but not private notes to exploit later on in such a way as to, do something with co-op, what is a kind of a small business for me and my wife, so we can, in our age, in our 70s, that we can chill and don't have to be going out to look for a job and stuff like that. So every time we do what we do, we ask for a nominal fee that's within the reach and the bounds. But the main thing is, we don't mind if you see something on the screen when I'm doing the program and you think that you need that, take a picture of it. I don't mind, for your own archive so that you could remember it. But jotting down notes and listening to what I have to say, because I'm doing a lot of reading. It took, I started this, you remember, I started this, Rich, back in October. That's when I began to put together this webinar, because of the type of research and what needs to be put together. I even drew from my book, Cosmic Codex, a lot of this stuff dealing with metaphysics towards the latter part of it. After I break down everybody who is involved in the deep state, I'm going to break down the deep metaphysics of the mind and how they're going to come after your mind, and what you need to do, what you need to understand and overstand about what your mind is about. So what they're getting ready to attack and how you can defend against that. So it's going to be heavy. It's going to be a lot of work. So sleep well the night before. Don't eat heavily. Have
Mhm.
a lot of water to hydrate. Okay.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Speaking of the mind, and I love when you teach us how to use the mind properly. and defend our mind against things that happen in culture that
Yeah.
that tries to brainwash us or program us or whatever. They got all these methods, whether it's media, social media, entertainers or whatever. I want to ask you a question about the mind real quick, Doc, and you're the perfect person to ask in terms of affirmations, because one of the things that we are told in terms of reprogramming our mind is to say affirmations. And I'm thinking about it in a sense, Doc, where sometimes if I say I got a favorite food and the food does something to my body when I eat it, I love it. I mean, say macaroni is my favorite dish, but if I eat macaroni too consistently, it stops to have that effect and I don't enjoy it as much. Same thing if I have a favorite drink and so on and so forth. It doesn't affect the body the same. When I have an affirmation, Doc, and I say the same affirmation every day for 60 days, does it stop to become effective because I didn't said it so much and now my body doesn't respond the same to it, the same as my body didn't respond to the macaroni that used to be my favorite dish, Doc?
See, that's the thing about mantras. They dull the mind after a while,
Mm.
and your
They dull.
mind
You said they dull.
they
Dull.
dull the mind after a
Wow.
while. What happens is repetition becomes tedious to the brain. The brain begins to lock down. It's almost like, have you ever had castor oil?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Now, do you remember ever taking it much too much to the point where even the smell of it would make you sick, or something that you can't deal with, that you said, I can't take any more of it because I want to throw it back up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Well, when the body becomes saturated, and for instance, if somebody is, for instance,
Right.
taking in a particular material to deal with some kind of ailment, and if they take it too much, the body says, that's it.
Mm.
Specifically when it's drugs. I
Hmm.
don't want any more. It's going to reject it because the body knows that whatever you're taking is inimical or dangerous to the body. So the body will cause you to revulse it. The
Mm.
same thing with the mind. If there's something is repetitious, you can put that into your subconscious, and the subconscious would automatically work for you. You
Hmm.
don't need your mouth. In fact, when you interfere with the universe, you have to act like the mantra.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you're not acting like what you're actually saying and repeating,
Hmm.
then the words become evaporated because where it's coming from, the origins of the word is not doing what the word is saying.
Right, right,
You
right.
see, so when the word is being spoken and you're putting affirmations in there, what you do is those affirmations are said in earnest with compassion, the same way that you feel the deep sense of love. You have to love the words that's coming out of your mouth.
Hmm. Hmm.
Once that happens, you let it go
Hmm.
because the universe already has that template.
Hmm.
If you keep repeating it during the times when you have emotional fluctuations, now you've tainted those mantras
Hmm. Mm.
because your emotions are what's actually giving the thing life.
Right, right, right.
So when you pull back from that, what I used to do, I used to teach my students, you get yourself some distilled water with a crystal in it.
Hmm.
And then what you do is you speak your mantra into the water, charge the water. And as the water evaporates, the mantra stays, it keeps
It's like
going. Yeah.
and and what the room you're in, you mean, is
The
like
room you're in is
that's
actually
dope.
speaking your mantra for you.
That's dope. Oh man, that's dope, Doc.
Yeah. And so what you do also, candles are pretty good, but you have
Yeah.
to get an unscented, and you have to get one that doesn't have any paraffin in it.
Right.
And so what you do is you can actually oil the candle, and there's High John the Conqueror oil, or you can put one of the oils that you want to put on that oil. We used to do this back when I had the center. And what
Mm.
you do is you carve, you write your affirmation in the candle,
In the
and
candle?
as the candle burns, your affirmation is filling your atmosphere.
Oh. That,
Yeah.
you said that before? I haven't. I don't.
No, no, I talk. That's why when we used to do the Agnihotra, people used to come every New Year's. We used to burn the Agnihotra under my giant pyramid in the living room, and I used to deal with the candles and teach people how to deal with the candle. I did candle magic so I was dealing with sorcery.
Doc, man, when you gonna teach that again, man? Come on, Doc.
I need the atmosphere to do that. You can't just teach it over like this. You have to have people with you. You got to be out in the woods. That's where my OBR man taught me. You got to be. You can't do magic that's natural in an unnatural environment. It doesn't work. Concrete always messes with it.
Doc, I got an idea. I got to talk to you about it.
Hmm.
Something I wanted to implement. And you just said something. I'll call you tomorrow. We're gonna talk about it.
Right.
I got a big idea. I want to run by you. Big idea. I
Okay.
want to run by you. So we're gonna talk
All
about it.
right.
Let me ask you this. So a lot of
Mhm.
people with 2024, it being an 8 year, a lot of people bring up the word karma.
Mhm.
Depending on who you talk to in the spiritual community, you'll get a different definition of karma. And I'm
Right.
sure me and you have discussed this before, but I would love for you to discuss it today, being that, well, they say we're in the year of karma. Um, a lot of people are waiting for the elites to get karma, but yet a lot of people say that the elites won't get karma because they don't believe in karma.
Oh no, no,
Or
they
because
do.
they do
They
things
do.
to get rid of their karma. So
Oh
let's talk
no.
a little bit about karma. What
Oh no.
exactly is karma from your research, Doc?
Oh, the elite definitely believe in karma.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
They know karma. You
Uh-huh.
know why? Because they keep telling you what they're getting ready to do. And that's why they are leaving karma behind. They are not actually messing with the universal forces.
Mhm.
They understand, they study. This is what metaphysics is about,
Right.
understanding the universal forces and what the universal forces mean. You are a creator of your own condition.
Mhm.
Even if you convince hundreds of people, thousands, millions of people to go along with your idea and they latch on to that idea, then they've latched on and supported your own karmic return. So, what the Europeans did to the Indians is to deal with the Varna system or the color system and told them after they conquered them, these are the Brahmins who always walk around with the orange in there. They are essentially they are from the Khazar and Ashkenazi tribal area of the Caucasoid Mountains. They're the same. They conquered the black Mohenjo-daro people, the Harappan people of India, and pushed them further south. So the true Indians are really black, coal black, and came out of Kush. So what they had a thing about karma, knowing that there is, for every action there's a reaction,
Mhm.
and when that reaction comes back to you, you are feeding the universe with purpose.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
the universe runs on purpose.
Mhm.
All right. So if you are purposefully doing something like causing somebody else misery, you're
Mhm.
going outside of the balance that the Creator created you to cause.
Mhm.
Because you are the Creator folded over onto itself to be greater than itself within this realm.
Mhm.
You are here to spiritualize matter.
Mhm.
If you are here caught up in matter, then you are here fighting for something that's temporal and finite. What is infinite is love.
Right.
What transcends anything you do physically is the love, the universe. You are in the universal power when you act within the universal power. But if you act to stay within the temporal zone, then the temporal zone always has a kickback for your actions.
Mhm.
No, so no matter what you do, you can lose the body, but you never lose the soul once you are locked in. You never lose the spirit. You can lose the soul, or you can cause the soul to become trapped. But what you are doing is you're locking into universal law. So
Mhm.
these guys, these maggots, they know how to get around the law. You know what a lawyer is? A lawyer is there to lie for
To
you.
weasel around the law. Yeah.
Right. So just call the deep state the lawyers of spirit.
Powerful.
See,
Powerful.
and they're the ones who know how to navigate around the law.
Powerful. Powerful. I
See.
like that. Wow.
So we can defeat them. We have to have the stamina to do that. And
Yeah.
we have to have the wherewithal to survive what they're going to do. But we're always being tested because you chose to come at this time.
Right.
Hmm.
That yeah, wow, wow, you say some profound things. This is why, family, I want everybody to make sure they sign up for this webinar next Sunday. Once again, the link is pinned at the top of the chat. We got about 2,700 people here. Some of y'all just came in, so let me just tell you real quick. Doc is having Let me ask you this, Doc. You talking about uh, the things you used to do when you had the center. Every
Yeah.
time you tell me, I mean, it's just magnificent things. That's why I'm like, I got to run something by you tomorrow. I got an idea. But let me ask you this. In terms
Hmm.
of meditation, sometimes I have these thoughts, Doc, but I don't have nobody to ask. Then you come and I'm like, aha, I can ask Doc. He got the answer to damn near everything in the universe. So let me ask you this, Doc. All right, say I'm meditating, right? I'm trying to sit.
Mhm.
I'm attempting to stay still my body, and in the process of me stealing my body, Doc, I get this magnificent idea. Now, this magnificent idea once makes me want to move because I don't want to forget it. So
Right.
sometimes I get caught between, Doc, do I move to jot down this magnificent idea so I won't forget it, or to try to tap into this magnificent idea, or do I stay still? So it's like the idea versus stillness. And I'll be having to pick, and I'll be knowing what to pick sometimes. So sometimes I just move, but then every time I move, I'm not still no more, Doc. So what's your thoughts on that happening to me continuously?
Okay, so you're going into meditation to achieve something,
Uh-huh.
something tangible that you could put down on paper.
Yeah.
Okay, then you're dealing with a form of meditation, which is essentially a kind of shopping. You're
Uh,
shopping. You're
okay.
shopping the universe.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Okay, so what happens is you get yourself a tape recorder
Uh,
and you sit it beside you like I used to. That's
uh,
how I wrote my books.
uh.
And when you go into your deep meditation, remember you have to empty your mind. You can't go in there with a purpose.
Right,
And when you don't go in there with a purpose, there are creative thoughts that are waiting to let you know what's going on in
right.
your mind and in the universe. But what happens is we get in the way of those thoughts because we got so much crap we got going on during the day. We got little aches and pains.
Yeah.
We got hunger pangs. All the things that our physical avatar is telling us pay attention to.
Right, right, right.
So what I used to do, and I tell people to do before you get into any deep meditation, take an enema, a colonic, cleanse your bowels, so there's no kind of back talk or any background noise, which is actually in your head or
Right,
in your body, actually trying to give you to pay attention to me, pay attention to me.
right.
Because once you stop thoughts, once you stop your thinking, because
Uh-huh.
that's what you want to do in your meditation, you want to examine the thought process while you are in meditation.
Uh-huh.
And as you're examining the thought process, you're not paying attention to one specific thing because that's when it's getting stronger by your attention to it. So you have to be almost like a blank slate, watching just all this activity going on in your head and not getting caught up with any one. Like, oh man, did I turn off the stove? Oh man, I got to pay that rent by when? What thing is it? See,
Right,
all of that's going to start coming in there to bug you because you created these thoughts as an archive. You created it as this is your Rolodex.
yeah.
Okay, so now when you got that and you don't want to deal with the Rolodex, you don't want your archives, you sit down very quietly after you got it. You don't eat anything. You just drink some water, chill, and then when you want to do it, make sure it's got to be really quiet. It's got to be no noise
Yeah.
because the noise will then call you to think.
Mm.
Okay, so now as you're sitting down, you're chilling. What you do is you have the one thing that's connecting you is the fact that you want to achieve something, and it's going to come to you based upon your stillness.
Right.
Achieving stillness is going to be a bitch. Trust me.
Uh-huh.
That's the most difficult part. And
Uh-huh.
I would not attempt to do anything. And if you've already achieved that, okay, you're telling me that you find some real good things going on, then you could start this. But others, I don't recommend it until you found peace doing this several times until your thoughts are no longer an inhibition to your purpose. So
Mm.
once you deal with that, you have your tape next to you and you're going into it. The only thing that's connecting you to the world is that finger on the record button.
Mm.
You put down the record button, press pause. And then when you're getting into that place that you can find yourself, then hit that pause button and then go into it and get a long take. Get enough that you're going to go into for an hour or so because that one moment that you did that took you out of the space temporarily to get back into a place where you're not thinking about anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so now when you're in that space and you are completely in the stillness, you're going to find that sometimes you get dizzy because a rush comes in that you've prevented by your temporal thinking. There is a rush that the subconscious and the spiritual part of you is ready to give to you as a download. And that's where you get your download.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to say, okay, I got to write. No, that download is supposed to come, and when you have it and you can sense it, articulate it in a very drone. Don't speak about it has to be like
Mhm.
you have to whisper it because that's how you're being communicated with in
Mhm.
whispers.
And whispers, right, right, right.
Yes. So as far as that's concerned, you just, I would say to those who are neophytes in meditation and you want to achieve something, you want to go shopping, then as you're going shopping, what you want to do is to make sure that you have that tape recorder, old-fashioned tape recorder with a
Uh-huh.
90-minute cassette.
Uh-huh.
And then that's how I did it. I used to do that for the Wounded Room. I did that for a number, all seven that I laid out, all seven of my books. I did that. I did a meditation.
All seven of them. That was
Yeah,
your
all
mentor.
seven of them. I haven't. I started them. I started each one of them. And when the idea came to me, it said, "Since you're a seven, you're going to do seven books." And
Wow.
so, if I complete it in my lifetime, yeah. If I don't, I'll come back.
He, I don't know if y'all realize the game he just gave us just now. I don't know if y'all realize the game this brother just gave us right now in terms of shopping. He called it universal cosmic shopping.
Hmm.
Yo, y'all, I hope y'all realize. Listen, shout out to Carlos. Carlos know what's up. Carlos just got his ticket for the webinar. Carlos know what's up. Doctors drop game on us right now. He just dropped it so nonchalantly. He just gave us the cheat code with the tape recorder and the meditation and how he wrote all his books. I
Hmm.
hope y'all didn't miss that. That's all I'm gonna say. Wow, thanks for dropping that
My pleasure, brother.
on us, Doc. One
My
thing,
pleasure.
when y'all talk about Doc, love God and love, and
Hmm.
everybody always uses the word love when they talk about God. And I had a show the other day, and I was just talking about this. And the whole Cat Williams being a comedian made me remember it. I mean, Cat Williams thing the other day that happened made me remember my experience when I took the toad. What's it called? The bufu. You ever heard of the bufu?
I don't know. Maybe I knew it by another
Like
name.
toad venom or something. It's like the ayahuasca.
Oh, the toad venom.
Yeah, the
When they
toad
used to
venom.
lick,
Yeah.
when they
So
used to lick the back of the toad. Yeah.
I took it with me and the brother named Cam Bada took it with Uncle Hank. He had some, and we
Hmm.
had an album about to come out, and we wanted to do something and tap in, and we took it, and I went to a realm of laughter. Like everybody was telling me about spiritual experience, and the spiritual experience I had, the realm I went to, I just heard laughter. It was just laughter and giggles and ha, ha, ha. So I'm wondering, Doc, why when we talk about God, we always use the word love, but nobody never uses laughter. We never
Hmm.
think laughter when we think God and divinity, but we think love. So talk to me real quick, since everybody's talking about Cat Williams about laughter and divinity, Doc.
Yeah. When we laugh, people don't understand what laughter really is.
Uh,
Laughter is controlled by the pericardium of the heart.
the heart, yes, the pericard. Okay.
Yes. And people who have problems with that, who have polluted that part, like your vice president, she has this cackling constantly. She can't speak without cackling.
Right.
She can't talk to people without laughing
Uh,
because she's nervous. She wants to please. She's constantly wondering whether or not she's good enough.
right.
So
Uh,
what's happening is when you hear a lot of laughter, you're tapping into soul energy because that's where the soul sits. It sits in the heart.
uh,
So if you are hearing a whole lot of laughter, then your heart is light. The people that you are accessing whose voices are laughing, their hearts are light, and they've invited your spirit based
uh,
upon what you have triggered by you taking the ayahuasca or you licking the back of the toad. Whatever it is that you are vibing with and for, what you were hearing were your ancestors
uh,
laughing.
wow. That's oh yeah.
Hmm.
Damn. Wow. That's wow. That's something. That's
You
something.
should have stayed with it. You should have concentrated more. You should have stopped doing everything that you were doing. And if that laughter persisted and you allowed it to get louder in your head, you'd have probably seen some faces with it.
You know, I let my mind take over, and my mom was like, "Laughter's not that. Where's the real spiritual experience?"
Oh
You
no,
know,
no,
yeah, I
no.
fell for that. Where's the real spirit? This is just laughter. Where's the?
Yeah,
I got caught up in that, man.
no, no, no. You went in there with a pre-assumption of what you are going to receive,
Yeah.
and that destroys the meditation. The thing about it is, I went into a tank. They used to have this sensory deprivation tank,
Yeah.
and I went in there the first time expecting I'm going to have this experience. I'm going to leave my body, and I'm going to do all this thing. I was terrified the first time
Yeah.
because what came in was all of what I experienced as a child, which is a
Right.
lot of brutality, and that really was the part that I had to cut it short. So when I began to become greater and more, when I did more practicing in my meditation to ease my mind to forgiveness, because
Uh-huh.
that's when I went back to Trinidad to my grandfather, who was the persecutor, and he didn't even recognize me when I was sitting right across from him, and my mother was there at the side, and it was so interesting because as he was sitting there, he kept looking at her and not at me, and I guess he thought I was some kind of tax collector or something like that. But he talked and talked for a while I was sitting there, and he just kept looking at my mother. And so he said, "Okay, so how are the children doing?" He always wanted to know what I was doing because I ran track. I was pretty fast back in Trinidad, and I ran
Right.
track. So he says, "Is he running track? What is he doing now? How are the kids doing?" And he said, and then my mother said, "But Daddy," he says, "Philip is sitting right next to you." And
Mm.
he couldn't look at me.
Right.
He couldn't look at me. And when he did look at me, he burst out crying. And so at that point right there, I forgave him.
Mm.
And so when I came back another year or so later and I did the deprivation tank,
Mm-hmm.
I went into a beautiful
Beautiful.
place.
Right. Right. Right.
Because if you don't forgive and get rid of and I mean you could teach history because those who are persecuting you from what you don't know about them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you know who your persecutor is, you know how to act. You can either be violent, take up a gun and shoot them,
Mm-hmm.
or you can ignore them, or you can move and go where you have to go and not be bothered by them. So there's a place where you can go so that you can be at peace. But the first thing you must do is to forgive yourself for even participating in somebody else's karma,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you see. And so once that forgiveness is happening, once you have released that burden,
Mm-hmm.
then everything opens up for you because the universe is quite spectacular. It's we who get in the way. We interfere with everything that it has to give.
Doc, when you talk about the parasitic elite and
Hmm.
things of what's going on, this dude saying you will own nothing and be happy. Uh, the genocide that's happening across the world,
Right.
ethnic cleansing that's happening.
We're gonna cover all that.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
want to ask you in terms of your reaction to it, and in 2024 and beyond, maybe how should we respond internally? I want to know: do you get get upset, or do you accept that this parasite of these characters are like actors in a movie and you don't take it personal? Like, what's your level of anger, frustration, or acceptance to what you see happening all over the world and what has happened in the world? Some people get extremely emotional,
Hmm.
extremely upset. Some people don't give a fuck at all.
Hmm.
How would you advise us to respond to all the things we see happening continuously? Babies being killed in the area over there that you're going to talk about. How do you respond to that, Doc, emotionally and mentally?
You have to be empathetic
Uh-huh.
because we are the world and the world is us.
Uh-huh.
We have chosen to be at this time, and every living soul that is participating within this paradigm is connected to us.
Right.
Okay? Now, how you deal with that connectivity is your personal karma and your personal journey. So, yes, I feel everything, especially when it comes to my brown and black brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I have an anger that my wife will tell you. I just yell and scream to get it out of my physical avatar, and
Mm.
then I go into a place of resolve and say all things are in their right perspective at the moment. And as I change my mind, I will help and participate within the paradigm of change. And only 10% of this entire flattened earth, 10% of the mind energies of humanity, that's all that necessary to get on the right frequency to just completely negate and completely shut down the present path that we're in. Now you remember
10%.
10%. And now you remember I said in one of my lectures and a couple of my things that I said, I don't live today. I'm just visiting here from another tomorrow. That's part of my mantra, and it's in my book, Cosmic Codex. Jimi Hendrix said the same thing. I don't live today. What does that mean? I said the tomorrow that I was in the mind and bliss to be a part of when I started the Metaphysical Underground, that tomorrow, when I started the Metaphysical Underground, it was to help people to see the other avenue to another tomorrow.
Yes.
Because the tomorrow that we were trajectory and the trajectory of the tomorrow that we were on was complete destruction and much earlier. And so what I did was I kept saying that to myself as I would leave the house, I would go to sleep. I don't live today. I'm only visiting here from another tomorrow. And the other tomorrow is the one that I'm helping to build along with maybe tens of thousands like yourself, that's helping to build a tomorrow that our children will inherit. And that inheritance is that's what I want to provide for my children and grandchildren. I want another tomorrow than the one that we see that we're heading straight to oblivion for. And so when I do my webinars or when I do my consultations, when I speak to people, I want them to understand that there is another path to a whole other destination. And the destination we're headed to right now is a gigantic cosmic brick wall of karma. And the karma is because we accepted our persecutors' karma.
We accepted it.
Yes, we've accepted it. We're participating in it. Look at what Kat was telling you about how trifling.
And you've been saying that for years.
Saying that these
years.
People, they are the scum. They don't care. You have to remember the people who are their mentors don't believe in an afterlife. They don't believe in a reward afterlife. They believe everything is here and now. That's the satanic. The satanic does not believe in an afterlife. They believe that this is the life. This is all there is. And there are gods that make sure that this is either heaven or hell, and they have to give you hell first before they can make their heaven. They keep telling you, you'll see it. They'll say that how when the time comes and the Messiah comes, every Khazar will have 100 slaves, and you're the slave. You're the goy. You're the people who are the cattle. This is what religion does to people's minds. And what you're looking at is a religious war. You're watching a religious war. This is one guy's idea of God against another guy's idea of God. This is how sick we've become. And they're the ones running Hollywood. They're the ones running everything, the banking system, everything. And we call them the deep state. And the deep state essentially has been doing this for the last 100 years. This is the plan for the last 100 years, even more, 150 years. And that's how far we're going back in the webinar. So you can understand the origins of how you have become here, how you've been born into this, to change it, to destroy this particular seed that was planted back then. I want soldiers in the mind first before you start picking up any kind of weapon. Because if you don't know what you're fighting for, it's going to fight you back. And that's what they're doing.
Right. You know, using Denzel Washington as an example, he's a movie star, and he's played in many movies. People love all his movies. One of the best actors, a lot of people say, of all time. One role that stands out though is a role where he played a bad guy, Training Day.
Training Day.
I want to ask you, considering Earth is a movie that we come down here and we're all actors in this thing, do you think that, you know, the great Doctor Reverend Doctor Phil Valentine. Do you think was there a role where you was a bad guy the same way he was a bad
Oh
guy
yeah,
back then?
yeah,
Was
oh
you
yeah.
like was you one of these parasitic elites at one time? Do you think?
No, I was a crazy son of a bitch. Yeah, yeah,
What are you talking about? You know exactly?
yeah. I know exactly. I did a past life regression with
Oh
my
shit.
Zula, and the past life regression. I did it also with I forgot the name of a Fua's friend, Queen of Fua's friend, and in that past life regression, when I went into the meditation, I went in so deep, and what I was doing was looking out at something.
Uh-huh.
And it was a whole army of people, but it was not an army of people. There was an army of people, but there was an army of dead, and I was standing on a pile of dead people.
Wow.
And when I looked down, I had this sword with blood on it, and there was nothing but dead people and skulls on there. And it was like I'm looking through the eyes at what it is I was seeing. And somebody, said that, well, you were looking through the eyes of a demon and all that. No, it was me. I
Whew.
felt very close and personal. It was no walk-in. It was none of that. I
Whew.
became part of what it is that is in my mitochondria. Okay, and when I did that, I was standing there, bloodied. What do you call it? And I was a conqueror. I was a crazy son of a bitch who liked to kill.
Damn.
And so when I came out of it, there was sweat, tears, crazy.
Yeah.
And then I had some flashbacks on it. And ever since that happened, I was having dreams of that same picture. And when I would look out at the horizon, I would see it was the same thing would happen. There would be these people, it was these entities who fought. It was like at the end of a battle.
Yeah.
And then when I looked up, that's when everybody knelt. So
Mm.
I knew that I was leading some crazy thing that I was doing, and that was me in my egotistical space, probably, wanting to conquer, wanting to own, and so forth. And then I saw myself in another when I went into the chamber.
Uh-huh.
I saw myself in a temple in robes, and I watched water in front of me with floating flowers.
Yeah.
So I knew that I was probably tapping into certain things that I was back then, and I acted out. It's the same thing. And then when I read the story of Krishna and Arjuna,
Uh-huh.
and it was the Ayurveda, I was studying Ayurveda, and there was a time when Arjuna was standing with Krishna
Uh-huh.
inside of a kind of what do you call this thing that they draw? You go a chariot,
Mm-hmm.
and there was an army of tens of thousands facing his army of tens of thousands,
Mm-hmm.
and so Arjuna was really nervous, and Krishna was sitting next to him and saying, "What were you nervous about?" He says, I just, I'm just afraid. My fear is coming. He says, "What are you afraid of? You've done this 1,000 times before."
Wow.
And he said, "What?" He said, "Yes." He said, "This is not new for you." He said, "Enjoy
Oh.
it." He said, "Enjoy it."
Oh.
Yeah. He said, "You come, you see." So that right, I left that alone, and I said, "Okay,
Oh.
uh, it's deep, right?"
Deep. Yeah, I'm glad I asked. Damn, you got some stories, Doc.
It's
Oh.
old time, man. I mean, when you're in your mid 70s, you're playing around with those numbers. You've gone through a lot. So
Yeah, man. But yeah, we got man. Listen, man. I can ask you a question for hours, man. You done been through. You had so many experiences.
yeah.
You done lived 10 lifetimes in one life, Doc.
Well, no, I think I was kind of reversing and trying to get back to a better state with all the lives that I had had. It
Yeah.
was crazy, and I don't know what I can say about my life that others would want to say, but I really don't care. I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed, the times when I was young and crazy and dangerous. I mean, I was pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
I've been out there. I've done everything. I've went into music, met all the superstars. I mean, I've run track and broke a record back in the day when I was young. I mean, I went through some really crazy things, and I'm very happy that I did. I laughed like hell my whole life. and
Mm.
I'm happy with the wives that I've had. I don't give, the wife that I have right now is my soulmate. She came back and we laugh like hell, or
Mhm.
we laugh at the same things.
Yeah.
I enjoy my life. And anybody asks me if I want to do it over again, if I had to do this life over again, yeah, I'd do it.
Woo! Wow, man, that's something. That's something.
Mhm.
I want to talk about now, and time is just flying by talking to you. Damn, Doc, time is flying by talking to you. Um, yeah, I'm gonna take a couple of questions from the chat. I'm not gonna have y'all come on here, but I'm gonna take about 3 questions from the chat. But let me ask you this, Doc.
Mhm.
Just studying you, studying Bobby Hemmett when I first got into this information, I'm like 19 years old. One of the first things that it allowed me to do, when you talked about the metaphysical underground, one of the names you gave this movement was the dark matter think tank.
Yes.
And one of the things that you and Bobby helped me to do is to make my relationship with darkness better.
Mhm.
My relationship with darkness, you're scared as a youngster. Meeting y'all and hearing those information, I developed a great relationship with darkness. And then in the last decade, 2 decades of my life, um, everything I ever wanted, I said this the other day, everything I ever wanted, Doc, came from the darkness.
Yeah.
The meditations, the visualizations, the just the silence, the everything, Doc. My children, my son, my wife, the
Mhm.
show, the questions I ask come from darkness.
Mhm. Yeah.
So talk to me about the importance of making our relationship with darkness better, because it's so scary because of all the bad things we hear about it. So
Mhm.
talk to us about strengthening our relationship with darkness, Doc.
You're strengthening your relationship with the origin of everything. Isn't that what the Bible says? Out of the darkness came the light.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
problem is we forgot we had to go back into the darkness and to understand the light.
right.
The light and the darkness are the same thing. The light, however, is a light that was actually made for the avatar and not the spirit. The problem is we get caught up in the avatar and forget that we can get back into the spark that
Uh-huh.
originated in the darkness.
Uh-huh.
So the pineal is the contact to the darkness.
Uh-huh.
That's where your meditation begins to give you all that download.
Right, right.
So when you are definitely living the understanding and understanding how metaphysics works, metaphysics is just understanding the language that the darkness speaks. You know everything about the light. The light
Yeah,
tells you every
yeah.
goddamn thing you want to think you want to know. You
I gotta
see?
yeah. I
So
gotta
the
write that down.
dark, it's always
Understanding the language that the dark metaphysics is understanding the language that the darkness speaks.
in that, and that's you get hit it right on the head. So when you understand and understand how it works, you have the darkness within you. That's why the dark matter think. That's the word,
Think, yeah. Dark,
think tank.
yeah.
You see? And so understanding how the darkness works, you can use it for whatever purpose you want, because the darkness is about either you controlling it or it controlling you.
What happens
And
with it? Go ahead,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. Ask your
What
question. I don't
you
want
said,
to.
you controlling it or it controlling you? What happens when it controls you?
What happens is the avatar, the physical body, is addicted to sensation.
Yes.
So the addiction drives certain people when they tap into the darkness. That's what the satanic energies are about. So
Oh.
the satanic energies is to enhance your addictions. And that's why the
Oh.
people like the Jay-Z's and all of these, they live in their life and they doing all this kind of real ratchet stuff that their handlers gave them. So their handlers are actually feeding off of them and their dark matter energy by them participating with people whose dark matter energy is no way can't even tap into the darkness. They can only take the energy that emanates from the darkness and use it to control.
Hmm.
You
Interesting.
see, and that's the thing. So when people want to get aggrandized into the physical, they want to deal with the material world. The darkness is telling their avatar to
Hmm.
do everything they can against universal law, even to create another kind of law that you will support and therefore give life to. So all of what we're doing now in the way that we looking at the people who are actually demeaning us, destroying our families, destroying our women, destroying our girls. When we look at what they're doing to undermine the human equation, they are using the words emanating from the darkness, the spiritual words emanating from the darkness to control. So they have a karma coming, but the reason why they don't get their karma right away, delay it, is by letting you know what they're getting ready to do. So it's on you to stop them. And this is what this webinar is about, to prepare you for everything they're going to get ready to do all the way up to 2050, not just 30. 2030 is a pivotal point for the next 20 years.
You said something about 2030 earlier, Doc.
Mhm.
So, and I don't know if I understand it right. So 2030, what we're doing now determines what does that have to do with 2030? What we're doing now.
2030 is when they're going to go full blast.
Okay.
By that time, they will have had you. They would outlaw gas a lot. Say you have a gas powered car. They'll
Mm-hmm.
outlaw it, and they'll fine you every time. You'll be taxed.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to take your land. They'll just go and take your land. They're going to talk about eminent domain and
Mm-hmm.
take your land.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to use the youth. They already have this thing that you saw with the border, with all these people coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Those weren't just immigrants coming in from Honduras and these places. They're coming from all over the world. They're
Mm-hmm.
being marched into the United States to take it down when the time comes.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke about this like 20 years ago. They were
Mm-hmm.
starting back then.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they got into us. So you're going to start seeing. You have to understand they're doing in politics. They're doing what do you call that? Planned opposition or planned obsolescence, not planned obsolescence, the
Um.
Hegelian dialectic. In other
Yeah.
words, they're dealing with opposites that look like they're opposites, but they're not opposite. They're actually controlled by one.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're dealing with Biden and Trump and everybody else, they're all working on the same puppet master, and you'll see that in the webinar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see, so it's they're getting ready to attack the ideal of what we set down for their ancestors back then, which is the so-called Constitution and the Great Law, the Ahenawasha.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, the Haudenosaunee is what we were giving as the Six Nation Confederacy of the North, and
Mm-hmm.
then we had another for the South. And of course, the European took it. Benjamin Franklin, Hamilton, and Washington, and all the rest of them. They sat at the feet of the Six Nation Confederacy, and
Mm.
that's where they started drawing up all their information. That's another book. That's another thing I put into Cosmic Codex.
Right.
How white people were saying that without the black man, they would not have had and understood what a federation was because they came from a monarchy, a
Mm-hmm.
despotic monarchy. What the hell they know anything about constitutional law and the type of things they're dealing with? In fact, all of communism was based upon what they saw we, the so-called autochthonous American, how we lived is what they structured the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto from.
Mm. Mm.
So everything they are is what we were, and what they brought essentially when you go into a place of peace,
Mm-hmm.
you don't think about war and the whole nine yards. You have balanced your entire atmosphere. The next children are not coming up under a battlefield kind of energy. So that's when they moved in, and that's when we gave the authority of the land to the woman because
Mm-hmm.
she's the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So when this devil came in and took over, he began marrying up the women to take the land.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what we put down, he came in and mutated, destroyed everything, took this 10 Commandments, the whole Bible. All of that is a bric-a-brac. A Bible is a hodgepodge and bric-a-brac of the writings of great men and women
Mm-hmm.
put into this holier than thou book that's nothing more than universal truth
Mm-hmm.
that has one theme. Man is favored by God. He or she does something and falls out of favor of God. And then through that knowledge of that of falling out and going through the suffering and definitely redeems himself, comes back into favor with God. That's the whole story of the Bible.
Right.
And the Bible ain't nothing, and so is the Quran. The Quran is a book of lessons of how to be a good human being.
Mm.